Hello, my name is Clint Blevins, and this is a Western tale, Art of the Story. The idea for this story came some years back when I had this image. It's a classic image of a cowboy and his long duster and his pistol by his side, but then coming down on him was a dragon. And it just inspired me. It wouldn't leave me alone. It stuck with me for a long time. I wrote it down in a book called A Western Tale. Now, a Western tale is a little bit different than many Westerns that you've probably come to know over the years. In this story, there's not just cowboys, there's not just bandits, there isn't just Indians. You could also run into a wizard on your journey. And that's actually where we first find our character, Garrett Abney. A wizard comes to his house. He's a man who's broken in his life. He's destroyed everything around him. He was once a powerful gunslinger who was even hired by heaven himself to go after bandits, but he fell out. And now everything in his life has fallen apart. And so we meet this character, Garrett, sowing his field with salt. And a wizard comes up to him and he tells him, I need you to do something for me. I need you to take this box as far west as you can take it until you find what you're looking for. And Garrett decided he had nothing else to do in his life, so he did it. He took that box out west, and that is where the story begins. Now, what Garrett doesn't know is that he's being pursued by a snake train that's slithering through the desert after him. And inside of it are a powerful group of enemies that are not quite human. And so this is where the story starts. This setting, this place, with magic, with mysticism, with tribes that have powers beyond mortal people. Today we're going to be talking about Garrett Abney. Now, this is the hero of the story. He was once a powerful gunslinger, but he's been rejected by both heaven and earth. He's a broken man, and given another chance at redemption, he takes it. And so he begins his journey, and where we pick up today, he's on his way to save one of his friends who has fallen and died. And so he's on his way to the underworld to meet him there, to hopefully bring him back to earth so that he can be healed. And this is my novel, A Western Tale, Part 1, The Overture. And we're going to be reading an excerpt from it now. The Underworld. It was dark. So dark that Garrett felt it clinging to his skin like a mist. There was the faint sound of water dripping, echoing off the cabin walls. Garrett was standing when he arrived. He didn't bother moving or looking around him, as he knew neither would help. The scroll had taken his spirit down into the earth, or perhaps no longer on the earth at all. He waited only a few moments before, in the distance, a faint light started bouncing off the walls of the cave. Soon it became clear to him that the light was a small torch carried by a single fellow. He was slightly hunched and old by anyone's reckoning. His eyes showed neither warmth nor sadness. They watched before him as he walked. "Come with me," said the voice, pale and faint. Garrett silently followed the robed figure for some time before the light began to glow from all around. Eventually, they had reached a place where the dark passage opened up into an enormous cavern, to which there seemed no real ending. I've had a chance to work with Bridgeforth Design Studios for many years, and we've worked together from everything from artwork surrounding the novel to movie sets. But we had an opportunity, a unique one, for me to set up and to read a portion of the novel. And as I read, Brian would create art in the background. Then Brian is going to conceptually create these characters and bring that scene to life in a real way.
Hi, my name is Brian Bridgeforth of Bridgeforth Design Studio. Today I'm here to talk about designing the world of a Western tale. First off, we're going to design the character Garrett. We're going to use watercolor paper and a light ink wash. I found out with this method I can sort of just, the first thing that comes to mind, I can lay it down on paper. The very first gesture, the very first thought. No need to worry about erasing anything. There's no mistakes. This is just ideas flowing out of my head right now. Our design theory for a Western tale is to take a spaghetti Western, sci-fi, and fantasy and sort of blend those worlds together to come up with a very unique design of the world itself and the characters. Clint is also an artist himself, so with words he was able to describe this very vast, beautiful, and rich world that these characters lived and dwelled in. In the world itself, the world is sort of burnt and dusty, really hot sun and stuff like that. So we actually wanted the character himself to reflect some of those elements and also the characters that we'll be creating. What it does help is make the world believable. So Garrett, we wanted to start out with him. We wanted to have sort of your everyday average cowboy guy. You know, he's the hero. But we didn't really want him to look like any superheroes or anything like that, but just your average guy with some great abilities. I wanted his face to be somewhat clean shaven, but a little scruffy. You know, you're in the Wild West, so you know we really want it to look sort of rough. Some of the guys are, you know, may take a few days before they can even get to a place to shave. So we really wanted this to be sort of believable. Usually when I'm drawing, my mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour, so I sketch with pens and markers and inks, so this way I can actually lay down the first thing that pops into my head. As a concept designer, lots of times it's the mistakes that you make that, you know, somehow work out. So lots of times you'll close your eyes and visualize something and then sort of try to interpret it. I use very light ink washes in order to do this. I usually start out with a light gray and then work my way to darker values. With the light gray, I usually figure out the form and shape of something that I would like and then gradually get darker and darker as I make decisions on things to keep. Using the middle gray ink, what I'm doing right now is sort of laying down a little bit more detail of the shape of some of the muscles in the face, the chin line. Then I use a darker ink wash. This is more to sort of flesh out the ideas, to pick and choose the lines that I would like to use and make it a little bit more definite, still keep ideas flowing and keeping it loose. That keeps it fun. This is a very fast and fluid way of drawing and also rendering characters, especially concepts. You don't want to get too hung up on details or anything, because right now we're just sort of working out ideas on what we want the characters and the world to look like. So we want to be able to change it in the future or change some things on the character. So keeping it loose is also keeping it fun. The fun part about being a concept artist is working with the writers and having the ideas come right out of their head, literally onto paper as they see them. Clint was also great to work with because he gave me a ton of creative freedom to basically add things to the character or, you know, even do a little creating myself. Lots of times when you're working on a character, your mind wanders and you start really thinking about the world it lives in. Lots of times there's additional things that pop into your head that maybe you can add to it or whatever. But Clint's great to work with. Once the darker gray is done, the last one I use is actually black. This is solid black India ink. And now I've made my final decisions where I want things to be. And what the black does is add sort of a contrast to it. The character makes them stand out more. And also I can add details to the character as well. Now using the solid black ink, right now I'm refining the details, actually making final decisions on the character. Where I want the jawline to be, the shadows, the eyes, the details. A lot of those final decisions are made during this process. It's a lot of fun because now the character's beginning to come to life, and any additional detail I would like to add to the character I can do at this stage. Wow, this has been a lot of fun. This is Brian Bridgeforth from Bridgeforth Design Studio. Can't wait to see you in the next episode of A Western Tale, Art of the Story.
So thanks for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in next time for another episode of A Western Tale, Art of the Story.